Well, we are live for our Back the Blue tour stop number 6 at the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department here on a Friday morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Happy Friday. It is great to be here with you as we get another show started. So we've done 5 of these to date. We've done Clay County and the Sheriff's Department, Gladstone Police Department, Prairie Village, Olathe, Independence, and now we are thrilled to be back on the other side of the state line. We try to do our best to bounce back and forth as much as we can to the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. You will hear this morning from several of the folks who are making this department hum. Of course, the chief is Carl Oakman. He is going to be here at 8:05 this morning on KCMO. Our first guest is going to be Brittany Pruitt coming up at 6:30. So a lot is going to be happening this morning here as we give you the stories of what's going on with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, which has been on a very good trajectory when you talk about crime in this city. So a lot to come this morning. It's great to be here as we get this one going. The donuts are out, the coffee's out. Our technician, engineer extraordinaire, Chris Castro, is holding down the fort here with us on 95.7 FM. So as we get this thing started, there's been a ton of reaction to my conversation with Kevin Keatsman yesterday right here on the show talking about the stadiums and whether or not moving the Chiefs and the Royals over to Kansas really makes any sense. And if you haven't heard it, you can find it up on the podcast after the show. Kevin is all in, guns a-blazing. He's all fired up and ready to move these teams across the state line. Of course, I'm much more skeptical because as far as I can tell, there's no details. There is no plan. It is just politicians doing what politicians do, and that is making themselves, hopefully, in the eyes of the public, look good, be light on facts, light on details, but just tell you, don't worry, it's all going to work out. And I'm not buying it. I'm not. And I don't think anybody should be buying it until you see some type of plan, some type of study done that would suggest any of this makes sense for the state and then you, the taxpayer. So until I see those studies, and no one's done them, so it's not like you can hide them. It's not like somebody has them. Nobody's done them. You can't tell me this is some great plan, some type of setup for what this Star Bond district would look like, where the teams want to go, where the stadiums are. And here's the thing. The teams haven't even done any of their homework. So that's where Kevin and I simply just disagree. I mean, I love the guy, but I need a plan. I need to see something beyond just, don't worry, Star Bonds are the best thing ever. It's never going to cost you a dime. There's no cost to you. Anytime a politician says there's no cost to you, usually it means they're lying. That's just how it works. And that's Republican, Democrat, doesn't much matter. They're usually not giving it to you straight. So I've got to see more before I start believing these pie-in-the-sky, grandiose plans coming out of the Kansas legislature. That's just where I've been at on this since the whole deal passed, earlier this week. I can't believe it. That was on Tuesday. We're sitting here on a Friday morning. And here's the thing. We're not going to have any details on this plan anyway. We're not going to have them until they start hiring engineers and they start getting people out there to do studies. And then they say, okay, we've got this study that would suggest that if we draw this Star Bond district from this part of Wyandotte County to this part of Wyandotte County and here to there, north, south, east, west, then maybe we can drum up the sales tax monies to pay off these bonds for these stadiums. But absent that, there's nothing that we can look at that suggests any of this works mathematically. So until I see that, I am still incredibly skeptical. Now, here's the other thing that came out yesterday that I thought was somewhat interesting. Laura Kelly, everyone's talking about the border war, right? There was this truce that was signed between Governor Kelly and Governor Parson back in 2019 that basically said, hey, we're going to stop poaching businesses from other sides of the state line because in the end, it becomes a race to the bottom. The taxpayer ends up losing. Corporate cronyism ends up winning. So we're going to kind of do this handshake deal. We're not going to poach businesses from either side of the state line to go from KCMO to KCK or Overland Park to Lee Summit, whatever you want to do. Well, of course, that's clearly now done. So Laura Kelly, in this quote that was picked up by the Kansas Reflector said, quote, "The border war was really focused on businesses like AMC theaters, which went back and forth and back and forth. We never discussed teams." Can we all use common sense here for a second? Let's all sit back and have an adult conversation here for a minute. When Laura Kelly said, well, the border war never discussed and included the teams, well, you could apply that to anything, couldn't you? You could say, well, the border war, we didn't go line item by line item on what industries were included in the border war. Therefore, the teams don't count. Well, did you discuss any industry? Or was it just about, she mentions AMC theaters, which bounced back and forth? Was there any other industry that was discussed when you guys came to this border war truce 5 years ago now? If no other industry was discussed, then that implies to me that it applied to everything. You don't get to pick and choose what businesses or, what industries get included in this border war truce that you guys agreed to 5 years ago. So, as Quentin Lucas said yesterday on this show, the border war is dead. The border truce is dead. The border war is now alive and well, but the truce is done. And by the way, and I don't like this for anybody, but it should be done. If Missouri sees value in taking a business from Kansas, I don't like it. I don't think it's good for the taxpayer. But as far as I'm concerned, it's now free reign. The notion that Missouri should abide by a truce that was agreed to 5 years ago, when Laura Kelly clearly is not doing her end of the bargain, now it's all free reign. Now it's back to where we were 5-6 years ago. And the loser is you. The loser is the taxpayer here in all this. Because now what's going to happen is you are going to have, because of petty politics, you are going to have more and more businesses who are on the Kansas side just try to use Missouri for leverage, and you'll have businesses on the Missouri side try to use Kansas for leverage and talk about all these great jobs they would bring to the other side of the state line if you just give them incentive X, Y, or Z. That's what now is going to happen. I understand it won't be as sexy as the Chiefs or the Royals, and it's not going to be talked about as much on shows like this and in media in general, but it will happen. You will have businesses looking for opportunities to just move across the state line because now it's, once again, free reign, and it's going to be an open game to see how much money or TIF dollars or incentives or subsidies you can get by moving 10 miles down the road. That's where things are going to go again. And this Pandora's box has been opened by the Kansas legislature. There's no doubt about it. And they've done it, frankly, I don't know why, outside of potentially personal and or political gain. But it's not a win for anybody on either side of the state line regionally, because now what's going to happen? Missouri's going to have to open its pockets. And they're going to have to step to the plate with some type of a deal. That's going to cost a lot more than that 3/8 cent sales tax that was on the ballot back on April 2nd. Now, does that mean that in hindsight the Jackson County voters should have voted in favor of that deal? I don't think so. I don't believe you should have any regrets. I mean, it was a 20-point loss. You didn't like it. You didn't like the plan for the Royals. A lot of people were bothered by how the whole thing went down. So there's no regrets there. It's just doing what makes sense for everybody involved. And that's why I really think, and I heard from somebody yesterday on this, Clay County is going to be back in the mix for the Royals, and that conversation is going to be starting up again here in the next couple of weeks with a lot of the power brokers involved getting involved in seeing whether or not that location in North Kansas City makes a lot of sense. We are live in Kansas City, Kansas for our Back the Blue tour stop number 6 here on KCMO. Bottom of the hour at 6:35. Our first guest is going to be Major Brittany Pruitt here on 95.7 FM. But coming up next, this drama with the Jackson County GOP that ended up with the cops getting called out to the headquarters, and it was all because of a clogged toilet. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Since we are here for our Back the Blue tour stop, we'll get you the latest on this story. There's a new development I didn't share with you the other day, next on 95.7 FM KCMO. That's right, we are here at the KCK Police Department for Back the Blue, as our first guest is coming up in about 15 minutes, Major Brittany Pruitt. commander of South Patrol. So looking forward to that as we get the show started with our guests here in the next 15 minutes or so. Carl Oakman, the chief, will be here at 8:05. So Kansas City Star got around to this story, I guess, 48 hours after we gave it to you here on KCMO Talk Radio. As always, they are late to the party. So this, I read you the police report a couple of days ago regarding this Father's Day barbecue that took place at the Jackson County GOP headquarters on Saturday. And it was put on by a guy who's running for Senate District 11. His name is David Martin. Now, the reason I laugh is not because of the allegations. The allegations are that he punched the county party vice chair in the back during his Father's Day appreciation barbecue that he was having at the party headquarters in Blue Springs. The Blue Springs police responded a little before 3 p.m. on Saturday and issued Martin a citation, with the candidate becoming upset at the officers on the scene, according to an incident report obtained by the Kansas City Star. Now, what caused all this? What caused this, issue at the headquarters that resulted in the police being called out? Well, an overflowing toilet is what caused the issue. So apparently what happened here is this guy's throwing this barbecue. He's running for state senate out there in Jackson County. And basically one of his guests, we got to find out who this person is. I got to put the investigative team on this to find out who it is. But somebody clogged the toilet. Martin's trying to clean up the toilet. The people who run the Jackson County GOP show up. The toilet's overflowing. It's falling all over the office. Disgusting mess. And a verbal fight ensues. That leads to Martin allegedly punching the vice chair in the back. Cops show up. He then allegedly, per the police report, holds a woman hostage in the GOP headquarters out there in Jackson County. And this is all sparked by a clogged toilet that just sent this place haywire. So an argument ensues. Martin's telling the officers that he felt verbally attacked by the two women involved with the state party and their husbands, and they're going back and forth. I mean, yeah, I'll tell you right now, God bless the officers involved with this nonsense. Imagine on a Saturday afternoon you're dealing with a bunch of yahoos and a clogged toilet. I mean, this is a joke.
This whole thing just stinks.
It really does stink. Thank you, Mark. Very well done by you. Nice work. Chris is really getting a kick out of this out here, at the KCK Police Department. So anyway, here's the part that really the part of this story that the Kansas City Star wrote about yesterday that we gave you 2 days prior, but that I missed when I told you the story the first time around. And this is just the icing on the cake. So this guy, David Martin, who's the one who kind of sparked this whole deal, after he was issued a citation by Officer Lankard, the officer wrote that David Martin accused him of conducting a mediocre investigation and had only taken statements from his opposition, not his supporters. And then he pulled out the card. And, man, I don't think this is a card you want to be pulling out with law enforcement just to be a douchebag. He said he would be complaining to Lankard's supervisors. So a sergeant, I guess, responded to then speak with David Martin. This is not like showing up to a Target and asking to talk to the supervisor because you're pissed about your return or something like that, not getting fully refunded. I don't think pulling out the I want to talk to your supervisor card with a cop when you're the reason this whole thing has, developed the way it's developed is really the hand you want to be playing if you're David Martin. I don't think you're going to get any goodwill saying to the cop who's writing up a report on you and an incident that involves you allegedly assaulting somebody, punching a woman in the back, allegedly, holding somebody hostage in the GOP headquarters out in Blue Springs, allegedly, and this whole thing results in you or one of your guests clogging a toilet, allegedly. I don't think you then want to break out the I'd like to speak to your supervisor card. That is what I would call poor police interaction and something that is not going to get you the kind of response that you want to get. So the officer then wrote that during the conversation, I heard Sergeant Emberton ask David Martin if he had been drinking due to the odor of an intoxicating beverage coming from his breath and the fact that Mr. Martin tended to spit at the sergeant as he yelled about the situation. Emberton, the sergeant, ended the conversation by telling David Martin to get a ride. That's where the Kansas City Star ends this story. But, I gave you that story a couple of days ago, 2 days before the Kansas City Star had it, since we had the police report. But I did miss the part where David Martin breaks out the "I'd like to speak to your supervisor" card, which is really probably not what you want to be going for here, but also not at all surprising when you know some of the characters involved here. I mean, this is like local politics is important. It matters. But, man, you just get some people who, God bless them, they might mean well, but they really should be just finding a hobby. Like, well,
that one should be up on YouTube later this afternoon then. That's a popular video thing where you get the people, "Do you know who I am?" videos and that kind of
stuff.
Yes,
that's a great point, John, the "you know who I am" video. Yeah, you're the guy who's run for office half a dozen times since I've been in town 6 years, and you lose every single race you're in.
Hey,
maybe it's time to find something new to do with your time.
If Justin Timberlake's not recognized, I don't think you've got a shot.
That's a great point. You know what? I'll give you that, John. If Justin Timberlake is not recognized by the cop who pulled him over the other night in the Hamptons, then you know what? I don't think anybody should be playing the "Do you know who I am" card.
Exactly.
That story from the other day. Justin Timberlake, 2 a.m. pulled over, DWI, and Justin Timberlake says to the cop, "This is going to ruin our tour." And the cop says, "What tour?" And Justin goes, "The world tour." And the cop was like, "Who is this guy?" It's like, never felt as old as hearing that story. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Oh, gosh. That's right. We are live in KCK as Back the Blue tour stop number 6 continues. Our next guest will be here at 7:05. That is Deputy Chief Ray Nunez. He commands the investigations unit, so that is about 15 minutes away on 95.7 FM. 1 hour from now, by the way, we do one of your last chances to win that $10,000 Bass Pro Shops shopping spree with that text-to-win keyword today. 750, 1050, 150, and 450. Today is the last day for that. Next week we start a giveaway for Morgan Wallen, by the way. We've got to fly away to Vegas. That starts on Monday. So we'll get you more details on that next week here on KCMO. So we've talked a lot about how, fast food prices just keep skyrocketing along with everything else. And one of the questions is, what are these companies doing about it? Well, this story comes from Bloomberg here late last night that McDonald's is ready for a fight, and they are kicking off. John Anthony, I know the countdown's on in your house. June 25th, 5 days from now, they will kick off a marketing campaign and a new $5 meal deal. They're rolling it out, my friend, and I know the countdown's on in your world, is it not?
It's not. I had to hear about it when I got home. My wife says, "I heard Pete talking to you about that." I said, "Honey, I was just talking about how the AI thing got stuck in the deal. I just picked an item as an example." Now, we take roles on this show, and I like to think of myself as everyman, so I know things sometimes, not through exact experience, but I just know things.
Well, you just know things.
Okay, honey?
That's right. So the $5 deal is going to include a McDouble or a McChicken sandwich, small fries, 4-piece nuggets, and a small soft drink. That's what's going to be included in this $5 deal they're rolling out because they know their prices are just too damn high. I mean, it's not a lot of the food I eat, and we've talked about this, but after our third was born here back in March, the nurse was like, "Oh, go get they didn't have Diet Coke at the hospital, which was just stunning to me. Oh, the McDonald's across the street. So I'll go over there. All right, you know what? I'm here. I'm hungry. I'm going to get something. You get the McChicken, you get a medium fry, you get a medium drink, you're over $10. I mean, that's absurd. And McDonald's understands that. I mean, their prices are up 60, 70%, depending on where you're at, over the last 3-4 years. So they know they've got to get competitive again. So they're rolling out this $5 deal starting next week. Now, here's what else is happening, and I was reading about this last night. you've got situations now where some of the fast casual restaurants are benefiting because people are like, if I'm going to spend $10, $11, $12 on a meal, why am I going to just get it handed to me through the window? Like, I might as well go sit down and have a little bit of ambiance and try to enjoy myself for 15, 20, 30 minutes. Why am I going to just get this guy who hands me these cold fries through a window, spend $10, $11, $12 on it, and, be on my merry way? I may as well sit down for a few minutes. So the CEO of Darden, which owns Red Lobster and some of those fast casual chains, they are now talking about how fast casual is in and fast food is out because of the cost of fast food. And that doesn't shock me one bit. And then if you're like Mark back in the studio and you got the apps and you find the deals, suddenly these places are a great bang for your buck.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mark, by the end of the show, I need you to get some recommendations here on the apps to get for people who are looking for fast casual, because I know you got them all in your back pocket, man.
I'll have to look up the fast casual. I mean, is that like a Chipotle type situation?
Yes, exactly. Or even like a Chili's.
Okay, all right.
So you go to those places, and, I mean, they're charging you. Some of their meals are $9, $10, $11, so why not do that? I know you got to tip somebody, but still, why do that? Why not do that instead of going to a place like freaking McDonald's where it's going to cost you $12 for a meal?
Mm-hmm. Well, representing some boomers, I'm going to say, I can't just get it by walking up to the counter. I'm not jumping through the hoops. So,
hey, as long as they've got the what is the Big Mac deal with the sack for the Chiefs this season, they're going to do that
happens.
again.
Yeah, we'll find out.
What was it? 2 for $5?
No, buy one get one.
Oh, buy one get one.
See, and the Chiefs were, the sack exchange here with CEO Chris Jones, right?
Well, 2 for $5, buy one get one's the same thing, though, right?
You McDonald's lovers were more fired up about Chris Jones coming back for the Big Macs than you were the sacks.
Hey, we love George Karlaftis.
Anyway, I'm telling you right now,
I kind of wonder about
that
going to
be right up there as well.
Get hit after every game, at all the locations. I'm like, they're going through a lot of
I'm sure they do. Man. I don't know how they're making any money on that deal. Whenever they sign that thing, I mean, that's like when you sign a. You get a rookie on a really good deal for 3-4 years. I feel like that's what's going on here. It's working out great for those of you that love McDonald's. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm not sure worth your McDonald's money.
That's right. Not worth your. Thank you, Pastor Funderburk. That's
the
well
guys
done.
on the job sites love it. I know that much.
Yeah, I don't blame them one bit, man.
Right?
I don't. Yeah. Well, that countdown's on. So maybe what would that be? June 25th is next Tuesday. So maybe you tell your wife, John, we'll take you out. It's on the station, all right?
Now, this is McDonald's own
McDonald's.
doing. This isn't because the economy is suddenly better, right?
No, this is not
right?
because,
that clear.
Correct. It's not because of the economy or anything like that. They're just realizing that they're not competitive, and they're not. It's just ridiculous, completely ridiculous. So there you go. That's going to be rolled out on Tuesday, and it's part of a trend. I mean, Starbucks, article in the Wall Street Journal this morning saying that Starbucks is actually, for the first time, offering half price off certain drinks. Now, if you're drinking Starbucks, we're going to have a little problem, but either way, fellas, it's okay. If you're looking for a deal, I'll let you get your Starbucks, Mark. Just at least leave the fanny pack at home, okay, buddy?
I'm a Scooters guy.
You're a Scooters guy. Sure you are. Sure you are. Okay. We just got done talking to a couple of folks here at the KCK Police Department, Chief Ray Nunez and Detective or Captain Rodney Smith, and we were talking in large part about just a lot of the ways that they are deterring crime, getting ahead of it, of course, and the way they're going after the youth, trying to protect the youth from getting involved in a life of crime. And I will never relent on the idea that COVID and our response to COVID encouraged younger people to potentially choose a life of crime. I don't think it's a coincidence that we're seeing younger people involved in violent crime in Kansas City and around the country, for that matter, 3 to 4 years after we sent every student in America home for months on end. Because those kids who are more likely to be in a vulnerable situation, single parents, you don't have a parent at home monitoring the kid who's supposed to be on the laptop going to class, which we know kids inherently are not going to do. They're going to get involved with the wrong crowds. They've got all day to do whatever they want suddenly. Like, that has an impact, especially, I believe, in vulnerable communities. And we're sitting here 4 years later in a country where you're seeing younger and younger people, unfortunately, involved in violent crime, whether they're on the receiving end or if they're the ones committing the acts of crime. So all this ties back to what we did 4 years ago. And that brings me to this story on CBS this morning where Anthony Fauci was on there the other day, and he got pushed pretty hard by the CBS This Morning crowd where they were basically saying, and they were saying and asking, hey, was it a mistake to close down these schools? Take a listen to that back and forth here.
As we get further from COVID, I think a lot of people are asking themselves, what did we learn and what will we do better the next time? And one clear area seems to be the school closures,
right,
which did enormous harm to kids on multiple levels and didn't seem to save lives. And I wonder, can we say today that that is a mistake, the closures?
I think what was not a mistake was the actual closure, because when we had to shut down that 15-day to flatten the curve, we were in a tsunami of cases. Right here in New York, you had freezer trucks in front of Elmhurst Hospital.
I remember the hospital outside my house, but I'm not talking about the initial.
No,
I'm not talking about the initial. I'm talking about the depth.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay,
and the issue is shutting down everything immediately, and we didn't shut it down completely, but essentially major social distancing in even schools was the right thing. How long you kept it was the problem, because there was a disparity throughout the country. If you go back and look at the YouTube, I kept on saying, close the bars, open the schools as quickly and as safely as you possibly can. But initially, to close it down was correct.
I'm not talking about initially.
Keeping it for a year was not a good idea.
So that was a mistake in retrospect. We will not repeat it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
All right, he came around on it there.
Yeah.
Guy, you think he got to it there, John? Good on the CBS anchor, by the way.
The weasel just digs in constantly.
He is a weasel.
It's just admit it. You got hindsight now. That's fine.
That is the most FCC-compliant thing I can call that guy, is a weasel. I mean, what a douche and a half he is. It's really, finally, credit to the CBS anchor for pushing Tony Fauci on that deal and saying, dude, it was a mistake. And this notion, this revisionist history of, I was saying close the bars, open the schools. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. Remember, you had Governor Laura Kelly here in Kansas. She wanted to shut the schools to start the 2020-2021 school year. We're not talking about March of 20 and April of 20. Okay, there were people advocating into the 2020-2021 school to shut them down. And you know what? If you were in Blue Valley and your parents are working from home and you know, God bless you for that, and you could watch the kids on the laptops, that's one thing. But guess what? Those who are most vulnerable, the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum, single parents, both parents working, they're the ones who suffered the most. And their kids are the ones who suffered the most.
Yeah, also, close the bars was not anything that was going to be beneficial either.
Well, that's a great point as well.
He's using that as if he was right about the whole thing there, and no.
Yeah. Nah, bro, you were not right about the whole thing. I promise you that. But certainly not on the schools, because that's part of why I believe 4 years later you are seeing younger homicide victims and younger people committing crimes because of a life that they embraced and got caught up in 4 years ago when we, did the unthinkable and we shut down the schools to the most vulnerable kids in the most vulnerable communities. No, I did not just interview dead man Cameron Lamb. I promise you that. Good morning. It is 7:50. It's great to be here on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio. Cameron Morgan, who we just had on, was awesome. Detective here with the KCK Police Department, but I did accidentally screw that one up, I guess, at one point.
Sign of old age.
Resetting. Yeah, it's a sign of old age. Thank you, John. I'm going to blame it on the coffee rather than my age, considering, my age is what it is in my mid-30s. But if you want to blame my age, John, I'm fine with that as well. You can take the dig at me. I'm good with that, man.
Well, you have a layer of references of people. And so if you say Reggie to me, I'm going to say Jackson. People are going to be like, what? Right? There's other Reggies, but Jackson's the first one that pops in my head. We've talked about the Cameron Lamb story for, 2 years?
More than that.
Yeah.
I mean, geez. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, you're going to have to start 1A, 1B type thing here. Just don't mess up Katie, okay?
At least I didn't call him Cameron Diaz, I guess.
There you go.
That's
probably what something
I
I would
don't
have
know.
done.
I'm just trying to find an out here for myself outside of being a doofus. But anyway, it has been great to be here. And it's great to meet guys like Cameron Morgan, who, used to be radio guys just like us, John. And now look at him, 15 years here helping solve crimes in the KCK Police
Back
Department.
here with Sweet Lenny and all the guys, Shorty and the boys in the morning. Lenny was in the evening time. It was a good show.
How about
Good
that?
station,
It's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, absolutely. It's better now. I'm not going to lie. It's better now with us, of course, in control at 95.7 FM. But either way, great guy, good job. And Chief Carl Oakman's going to be here at 8:05, and I'll make sure to call him by his real name here on 95.7 FM. In a half hour, we are going to have Mike Kehoe. He's running for governor in Missouri. He's in Kansas City today, so he's going to join us. And I just got a hold of some new polling that dropped here from Emerson. So this just came down this morning from Emerson, and it shows in Missouri, Jay Ashcroft, the Secretary of State, leading the polls with 23%. Mike Kehoe is at 20%. And then Bill Eigel, state senator, is at 6%. But here's the biggest part of the poll. 46% are still undecided. Almost 1 in 2 Missouri GOP primary voters don't know who they're voting for in 6 weeks. Mike Kehoe's strength is older voters, according to the Emerson poll. 26% of voters over 60 support Kehoe. 18% support Ashcroft. Now, that surprises me. I figured the older voter would like Ashcroft because of his last name. Because they remember, Dad's time in office and the whole deal. I would think that the last name Ashcroft in Missouri means more to the over 60 voter. And they care more about that. But interestingly, Kehoe's strength is the older voter. Ashcroft performs better with voters in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. 31% support Ashcroft, 15% support Kehoe. So wow, okay. So this is all, I'm getting this in real time right now. Meantime, some polling done for the U.S. Senate race in Missouri. Josh Hawley at 47%. Lucas Kuntz at 38%. He is the expected Democrat in that race. The economy is the top issue for 34% of Missouri voters, followed by abortion, immigration, health care, crime, education, and housing affordability. So that's where that's at. Meantime, some other issues in this poll, pretty interesting. Missouri voters are split on sports betting. 38% would vote to legalize it, 35% would vote against it, and 26% are not sure. That could be on the ballot this fall. We don't know about that yet either. If it is on the ballot, Mark's going to be going door to door in every county in the state trying to get sports betting passed. Isn't that right, Mark?
That would help.
I know you would.
At least for my show on the weekends.
Yes, exactly. Exactly right. And then how about this? This was also part of the Emerson poll. Voters were asked how important it is to them to keep the Chiefs and the Royals in Missouri. 63% of voters find it important that the Chiefs stay in Missouri. 37% do not find it important that they stay in Missouri. Now remember, this is statewide, so this could be some just, angry Rams fan. They're still bitter. 58% of voters found it important that the Royals stay in Missouri. 42% say it's not important. So basically 6 in 10 voters statewide, and that also includes Cardinals fans. So it's pretty telling. I got to imagine those numbers are significantly higher as you get to the western side of the state. Because why would Cardinals fans are polled, obviously, in this statewide Emerson College vote. Why would they care whether or not the Royals stay in Missouri? They probably don't. So the fact that it's 58 in favor of the Royals, 63 in favor of the Chiefs, that's very telling to me. And that would suggest to me that it's going to open the door for the state to make a move and potentially play a role in keeping these two teams in the state of Missouri. That's how I see this playing out. And I do think you're going to hear some things, as I said as we started the show this morning, where Clay County works its way back into the conversation. I could see the state being involved, but the state basically saying, Royals, if you want help, go to Clay. keep the Chiefs in Jackson, spread the tax burden around, whatever that looks like. I'm not endorsing whatever this plan would be. I'm just saying that would be, I see, the way that this thing goes moving forward, to keep the 2 teams in Missouri, but spread the tax burden beyond simply Jackson County.